Good afternoon. Woo, wow, hot mic. Good to see y'all. Thank you for coming this afternoon. I know for some of our agencies particularly, this is above and beyond the call, and I appreciate that. This legislative public hearing on block grants is hereby called to order. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Representative Katie Dempsey. I represent the people of District 13. Sitting on the podium with me is Leo Chansey, representing the House Budget and Research Office, and Jared Evans, representing the Senate Budget Office and Evaluation Office. The co-chairman of this is Senator Renee Unterman, who represents Senate District 45. She's in a meeting, but is going to try to join us before we are through. R. Demetrius Taylor, Deputy Chief Financial Officer and Budget Director for the Department of Human Services, and Doug Reinecke, Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, is also with us today. Before we get started, is there anyone here who requires sign language interpreter services? If you would just raise your hand if you need sign language services. I don't believe I see anyone at this time. Thank you for attending today's block grant hearing. The purpose of this hearing is to receive public comments on the use of 5 human services block grants that Georgia receives from the federal government. The hearing also provides the members of the Georgia legislature the opportunity to listen to the views of private citizens and other interested parties on how block grant funds should be used for state fiscal year 2018, which begins July 1, 2019. These block grants are Community Mental Health Block Grant, Community Services Block Grant, Low Income Home Energy Assistance Block Grant, Social Services Block Grant, Substance Abuse Prevention and Treatment Block Grant. Public input is an important aspect of the deliberative process that the Georgia legislature undertakes in making decisions about our state's budget. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this process. At this time, R. Demetrius Taylor will provide the brief summary of the grants and explain how we will proceed. Please welcome Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Representative Katie Dempsey. As Representative Dempsey has told you, the Department of Human Services will receive public comments on 3 federal block grants. By federal law, Georgia is required to hold public hearings on these grants. These 3 grants are the Community Services Block Grant, Low Home Income Energy Assistance Block Grant, and the Social Services Block Grant. At this time, I will give you a brief overview of these grants. The Community Services Block Grant provides funds for services and activities that impact the causes of poverty and to assist low-income participants. These funds are distributed to local agencies throughout the state and fund a wide range of services, including employment, education, meals and nutrition services, and housing services. The Low Income Home Energy Assistance Block Grant provides cash assistance to qualified low-income households for home energy costs, weatherization costs, such as caulking, insulation, and weather stripping, to reduce energy consumption and energy crisis intervention. Finally, the Social Services Block Grant funds various services such as daycare services for children, adults, and persons with mental retardation, home-delivered meals, homemaker services, transportation, and protective services for adults and children. This grant also assists families to achieve and or maintain self-support and self-sufficiency. At this time, Doug Reinecke, the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities Director of Legislative Affairs, will provide a list and a brief summary of his agency grants.
Thank you, Demetrius, Madam Chair, members of the Assembly. The Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities will receive public comments on two federal grants. Two grants is Community Mental Health and Services Block Grant and the Substance Abuse Prevention and Treatment Block Grant. Brief overview of these two grants. The Community Mental Health Service Block Grant implements the provisions of the Mental Health State Plan by providing services to individuals with serious mental illness and to children with serious emotional disturbance. Number two, the Substance Abuse Prevention and Treatment Block Grant provides funds for community-based alcohol and drug treatment, prevention, and early intervention programs. With that, I will turn it back over to Demetrius.
Thank you, Doug. More details about each of these grants, including types of programs that can be funded and their proposed funding levels, are included in the color code pamphlets at the back of the room. And each grant has their own separate pamphlet. Before receiving your comments, let me go over a few ground rules. We will take speakers in the order in which they sign up to speak. If you have not signed up yet, you may do so at the back of the room. Please give us your name and the name of the organization you represent. If there's more than one representative for your organization, please assign one person to speak to represent your organization so that we give adequate amount of opportunity for those who would like to speak. You will be given 5 minutes to present your comments. There is a timekeeper who will let you know when you have 1 minute left. I will initially call 2 speakers to the podium at a time. As the first person is speaking, the next speaker should be making his or her way to the podium. Then as I call your name, please make your way to the podium. If you have any written comments for the record or a copy of your speech, you may please leave them at the back of the room. With that said, let's begin. Okay. For as I'm aware of, there's no one here that has signed up to speak. So with that said, I would like to personally thank Representative Katie Dempsey, Leo Chancey with the House Budget and Research Office, as well as Jared Evans with the Senate Budget and Evaluation Office. Now I turn it back over to Representative Katie Dempsey.
Well, thank you for that brief overview. I want to remind those of you that have come to the hearing today, I appreciate it and thank you. There are pamphlets at the back of the room that do talk about each of these grant opportunities for entities across our state. So with that, and there being no further business, this concludes this year's block grant hearing. I thank each of you.